Hey everybody, Douglas Blair Roberts here, the Super Vader 400, and of course the brown skin human, coming back at you with another um video, with another movie review series and overview. And this time it's the Mortal Kombat movie franchise. After the video intro is complete, I'm gonna start off with the Mortal Kombat Journey Begins film, then the 1995 film, then 1997, and give my short thoughts and rant on the upcoming Mortal Kombat Mortal Kombat reboot film this coming later this month. Yeah, the links to my previous Mortal Kombat reviews, those will be in the description box below. The narration version, which also has Conquest included. I was going to include Conquest in this video, but I decided to save that for another separate review because this review series was already becoming way too long. So yeah, this is also the video intro for the other Mortal Kombat other Mortal Kombat adaptations such as Conquest and the Scorpion's Revenge movie. So if you don't want to hear the rest of so with that being said, let's get started right now. Also, the links to watch this movie will be in the description box below too, to watch these movies. So with that being said, let's get started. Hey everybody, it's time for the next part of my long Mortal Kombat movie franchise review and overview and my short thoughts on the 2000 on the 2021 Mortal Kombat rebooted film coming later this month. As you can see right there, you can barely see them. Like I said in part one, there's the two DVDs of Mortal Kombat 95 and Annihilation on the bed. You can barely see them because of the sunlight, but they're right here. But they're right there on the bed, right next to my supplies and stuff. So with that being said, let's get started right now. This is the first part is Mortal Kombat: The Journey Begins, the 30-minute animated prequel prequel, which serves as a promotional material for the first 1995 film, meant to get you hyped to watch the film and explain the backstories of Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Goro, and Shang Tsung, because those characters aren't really developed or elaborated on in the 1995 movie. So that was the whole purpose of this movie. So let's start the movie right now.
The world has won every tournament. 9.
This movie right here has a quote-unquote mix to negative reception amongst the Mortal Kombat community for its choppy animation and its mixture of dated 3D techniques. I, however, back in '95 when I saw this for the first time, back in '97 when I saw this for the first time, I thought it was the coolest thing. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And every time I watch it, it always gets me hyped to watch the second two Mortal Kombat movies. And this short animated prequel, in my opinion, was a better adaptation of Mortal Kombat. Was a better adaptation of the Mortal Kombat games than either of the two movies, especially the first one. One thing I liked about this is this was a cartoon. It had more action from Mortal Kombat, such as Sub-Zero doing ice projectiles, Scorpion using his spear, Liu Kang doing his kung fu moves. You had that cool fight scene on the boat. And yeah, the whole storyline of this film centers around the cast of Mortal Kombat 1 and the 1995 movie. Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, and Sonya boarding the ship to Shang Tsung's island and guided by Raiden, learning the secrets of the Mortal Kombat tournament to prepare themselves for the ultimate battle, which is basically the Mortal Kombat tournament.
The tournament is by invitation only.
The voice acting cast of Jennifer Howe, Jeff Bennett, Jim Cummings, and a couple of more are featured in this Mortal Kombat, are featured in this 1995 Mortal Kombat adaptation. This adaptation reminds me of, especially when I saw it for the first time. I saw this 2 years after its release. This reminds me of Mortal Kombat, the video games Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and of course Mortal Kombat 4. Goro, the CGI version of Goro in this animated film here looks like he was taken from this film and inserted as one of the final bosses of Mortal Kombat 4. I like how it elaborates more on the storylines of Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Goro, and even Shang Tsung. But Goro, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero especially, because I felt they were underutilized in the 1995 film, so it's good to see them fully developed and more utilized more here than they were in the 1995 adaptation of Mortal Kombat.
You'll know that soon enough.
Mortal Kombat.
And your radio won't work.
My favorite scene is the final battle with Liu Kang, Sonya, and Johnny Cage fighting the
gave you the cold shoulder.
Fighting the Tarkatan, or at this point the nomadic horde, the group of Barakas, followed by every other scene. All the fight scenes were great, especially the cool CGI scenes, which were performed with motion capture based performers.
These three are most dangerous adversaries,
which is now utilized in modern video games and movies and television shows. Then you have
tournament. Scorpion, to secure a place in the hallowed victory hall of your clan, you must kill Sub-Zero yourself. If the three warriors from Earth kill Sub-Zero,
so like I said, going back to the storyline. So the storyline, it starts off with Johnny Cage, Liu Kang, Johnny Cage and Sonya already on the ship. Johnny Cage, and keeping with his Mortal Kombat character, walked onto the ship and entered the tournament to prove that he is the best, and what he does on the screen is not fake. Sonya's looking for a wanted man.
Listen, we were thinking maybe
Sonya's looking for a wanted man and just walked on. Liu Kang, of course, was chosen by the Temple of Your Light to represent their order in this quote unquote tournament. Shang Tsung does everything in his power to sabotage the Earthlings, so him and his team can win Mortal Kombat, and Earthrealm can open to Outworld. He instructs Scorpion to, even though it's Scorpion's mission and destiny to vanquish Sub-Zero, he instructs Scorpion to help Sub-Zero because if the Earthlings fight Sub-Zero, they'll rob him of his vengeance and they'll kill Sub-Zero. So help Sub-Zero right now, and then he can personally kill him later. So Scorpion and Sub-Zero attack Liu Kang, attack Johnny Cage, Sonya, and Liu Kang, and Sonya and Liu Kang are barely able to fight their way through the group, but Scorpion is about to win when he uses the get over here on Sonya. Raiden makes his presence known, interferes and cuts Scorpion's spear in half and stops the fight and rips Shang Tsung a new one for breaking the sacred rules of Mortal Kombat. Shang Tsung tries to lie and says, oh, it was an ambush attempt. Raiden tells the group that wasn't supposed to happen. He tells the three warriors what they're in for, and that was just a taste of what they'll be facing in the tournament. The boat boards the island where Raiden tells the group that everything you see here is an illusion held together by Shang Tsung's presence and magic, just like in the video game, just like in the first video game. And throughout the movie, he tells them backstories of Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Goro. He tells the story of Scorpion and Sub-Zero, how they both met on the same mission and fought to the death with Sub-Zero freezing Scorpion, and ice shattering him. In the game, of course, Sub-Zero froze his body and ripped off his spine, ripped out his head and spine. So
by challenging the Earth's
yeah,
might,
but that was around 97. That was in Mythology Sub-Zero, which was 1996, 1 year after this movie was released, so that wasn't in the storyline yet. Next was, who else? What else about this movie? What else about this franchise? What else about this quote-unquote franchise? Oh yeah, he tells the story of Goro, how Goro and his brother Duroc competed for their father's approval, and that their culture is survival of the fittest. One day there was a special egg that both wanted to present as a gift to their father. Goro and Duroc fought over it. Duroc proved victorious and knocked Goro off the cliff, but helped him up. Goro then attacked Duroc from behind and threw him off. Duroc had hoped Goro would do the same thing, but Goro
stumped Urok's hand, causing him to fall to his apparent death, and thus Goro earned his father's favor, because what he did was wrong, but it was survival of the fittest and the most ruthless. It was this moment right here, and it was this moment right here where I absolutely hate the Goro character. The only time I liked him was in the video game. The original timeline. Every other timeline, especially the movie universe where he's at his worst, I absolutely can't stand the Goro character. It was because of this moment right here. Then you also had Shang Tsung's backstory where they talked about how he beat a temple master, when they showed him in his Mortal Kombat 2 attire fighting a temple master, and he's revealing his soul stealing technique, and taking control of the Mortal Kombat tournaments, and thus turning the Mortal Kombat tournaments, which for ages a competition of guts and glory, like Raiden said, into a deadly game for control of the realms. That's what Shang Tsung turned the tournaments into. Then you have what else? Then Goro commands the Torkatan Horde, the group of Marakas, to attack Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, and Sonya, throughout a long battle, which features the short animated movie, reusing several scenes over and over again. The fight choreography was awesome, despite the limited repetitive use of the same animation. Then Raiden once again intervenes and rips Shang Tsung apart for breaking the rules of Mortal Kombat. Shang Tsung appears. That was just a warm-up exercise. Now the real test begins, and the film ends. The film ends with the iconic Mortal Kombat 1995 techno theme playing, and a bio of every character who appears in the film. So this was Mortal Kombat: The Journey Begins, an awesome animated prequel and promotional material for the next two Mortal Kombat movies. So that was Mortal Kombat: The Journey Begins. Get ready for the 1995 Mortal Kombat adaptation next.
Shang Tsung will have you watched.
Alright, now it's time for my review of the 1995 Mortal Kombat adaptation. Mortal Kombat adaptation, which, like I've said in plenty of reviews and plenty of videos about this movie, this right here is one of my all-time favorite and best movies of all time. And while it's definitely has shown its age, it's still as awesome as now as it was back in the 90s when I saw this for the first time. And to this day, in my opinion, it is still this movie along with its sequel, Sonic the Hedgehog, it is still the undisputed king of video game based movies, and still is the best, and in my opinion will not be topped soon. So with that being said, let's get started right now. Let me start the movie in the background. What about this movie? Oh yeah. Like I've said in plenty of videos, I first saw this movie 2 years after it released in 1995. I saw it for the first time in late 1997. In late 1997, and I've been a huge fan of the movie ever since. I couldn't believe that the very epic Mortal Kombat video game, which I was just getting into, was now a movie, was now a live action movie. You know how epic it was back in the 90s, seeing Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, Sonya, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Kano, Shang Tsung,
Shang Tsung come to come to life, come to life. All of the martial arts fighting, the special maneuvers, seeing all of that in live action, seeing all of that in seeing all of that in live action, and then yeah, yeah. This movie, of course, is loosely based upon Mortal Kombat's 1, is loosely based on Mortal Kombat's 1, but features several elements from the second game, such as Outworld. Outworld was mentioned in the first one, but it wasn't seen until the second game. Then of course, Shang Tsung's youthful appearance here in the movie, that of course was depicted in the second game. In the first game, he's an old man. He's an old man. Then of course, the characters of Reptile and Kitana. Now, Reptile was in Mortal Kombat 1, but he was just a secret character you could fight if certain conditions were met, and he was just a green version of Scorpius and Sub-Zero with no backstory, and no impact on the actual Mortal Kombat 1 backstory. Myself and many Mortal Kombat fans consider Reptile's debut to be Mortal Kombat 2. That's where his storyline, quote unquote, begins in Mortal Kombat. In Mortal Kombat 2, that's where Reptile's storyline begins. So yeah, Reptile and Kitana, both of their storylines, both of their first real appearances appears in Mortal Kombat 2. And Liu Kang's bicycle kick, which he used on Reptile, also first appeared in Mortal Kombat 2. But other than that, for the most part, a great adaptation. This was the first successful video game-based movie. It still got like a mixed negative reception. The most positive reception it got was from the legendary critics, the late great Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, who both gave this movie a noticeable thumbs up and considered it great compared to the previous box office flops and disappointments that were Super Mario Brothers, Double Dragon, and of course Street Fighter 1994 with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Yeah, I like the entire cast of characters and actors and actresses. My least favorite character in this film was Goro. He was the worst, which I'm going to get to in a minute. The portraying Liu Kang is my boy Robin Shaw. Portraying Sonya Blade is Bridget Wilson. Portraying Johnny Cage is Lyndon Ashby. Hiroyuki Tagawa portrays Shang Tsung. Stephen Ho portrays Liu Kang's brother Chan. Francois Petit portrays Sub-Zero. Chris Casamassa portrays Scorpion, and Keith Cook portrays Reptile. He would also appear in the sequel as the younger Sub-Zero. And Kevin Michael Richardson portrays Goro. The late great Gregory McKinney portrays Jax. He passed away 3 years after this film was released. And then the late great Trevor Goddard portrays Kano. Trevor Goddard's portrayal of Kano was so great that they actually reckoned Kano's backstory to him being Australian. In the original version, he was an American raised in Japan. The special effects are great. Especially the projectiles and production-wise. This movie is so much better production-wise and as an overall Hollywood blockbuster, is so much better than its sequel. But I thought the sequel was a better Mortal Kombat film, which I'm going to get to when I get to the sequel, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I liked all the characters. Every character seemed to be his or her, were his or him or herself. The worst character was Goro. I hated Goro in this version. In contrast, believe it or not, to the honorable character he is in the honorable and disciplined character he is in the video games. Here in the movies, he is this pompous, super arrogant prince and who easily got beat up by Johnny Cage and had, in my opinion, had the worst loss, the biggest L in the film. Biggest L in the film. Of course, biggest L in the film. In the fight with Johnny Cage, you see how hard Goro was in the video game, the very first Mortal Kombat. In the first Mortal Kombat, in Mortal Kombat 4, Goro is actually tougher than the boss characters you face, and that would be Shang Tsung and Shinnok. Goro is actually tougher than both of them in the game. Here, he gets outsmarted and beat by Johnny Cage. First, he taunts Johnny Cage, which gives Johnny Cage enough time to hit the split punch, punching him in the nuts. Then he gives chase to Johnny Cage. Then Johnny Cage gets to jump on him again, kicking him. Then easily punching, kicking, and knocking him on the ground. Then kicking him off the cliff, and then he falls to his death, and that's the end of Goro. That's the end of Goro. He didn't even land a single punch. At least Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Reptile, and even Shang Tsung all got some good shots in. Before they got killed off. He got the worst L in the film. Then his feats all he did was squash Cannon Fodder and Art Lean, who I also enjoyed. In this film. And man, he's never been made an actual character in the games. But I enjoyed this red shirt guy more so over Goro, as I did the other red shirt guy, the guy with the dreads, Hank Astin's character, the fighting monk character, who as a child I actually mistook, despite the fact he's a brown guy, because he had dreads, I actually mistook him for the character Cabal. Whenever I'm watching a Mortal Kombat movie, whenever I used to watch a Mortal Kombat movie and I see a guy with dreads, I immediately think it's Cabal. It was Cabal, but it wasn't him. It was just a random fighting monk. But I enjoyed his character, who he didn't even get to say anything. He just growled. He didn't even get to say anything. I enjoyed him more so than the overrated Goro. Yeah, Goro was the worst character here. Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Reptile, their characters and actors were awesome, but I hate how underutilized they were, especially Scorpion and Sub-Zero, who are the flagship characters of Mortal Kombat and two of the best developed, when you look at Mortal Kombat, two of the best developed characters in that series were Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Scorpion and quote-unquote Sub-Zero. And here they're just cannon fodder, jobber opponents for the main cast. Scorpion fights Johnny Cage. Cannon fodder, and what was worse to be a cannon fodder, silent henchman for the main antagonist, Shang Tsung. Yeah, I didn't like this part. I didn't like this part of the backstory with both of them being slaves. Both of them being deadliest of enemies. They first get it right, deadliest of enemies. Then they add but slaves under my power. Didn't like them being slaves under Shang Tsung's power. They should have kept the original storylines, which was Scorpion was entering to get revenge on Sub-Zero for killing him, his family and clan. Then Sub-Zero entered the tournament. Under orders from the Lin Kuei master to fight and survive the tournament. Then when it's over, assassinate Shang Tsung and steal his treasure. They should have kept that storyline. I don't know why that's so hard to adapt.
But other than that, great. Great movie. My favorite scenes were Liu Kang versus Reptile, followed by the next fight, the final boss battle, Liu Kang versus Shang Tsung, followed by every other scene in the quote unquote movie. Awesome soundtrack with the memorable techno theme and a lot of cool classical themes, hard rock themes that appear in the indie credits, and of course several cool background tracks. So yeah, one of the best soundtracks, best everything. The special effects are cool, especially the projectiles and special maneuvers. Those are always cool, and those are always the same in every movie. No matter how much money you throw at a projectile, it's the same in every movie. The creature effects. These have shown some age, even though these creature effects look much better than the ones in Annihilation. In quote unquote Annihilation. So yeah, you got Mortal Kombat 1995. Like I said, the storyline was Liu Kang. The storyline was every generation, like they say in the intro, every generation there's a tournament, and a few warriors are chosen to prove it. You have Liu Kang, a Shaolin monk, who enters the tournament to avenge his brother Chan's death. You at the hands of Shang Tsung. Then you got Sonya Blade, who enters the tournament to capture and apprehend and defeat Kano, leader of the Black Dragon criminal organization. Then you have Johnny Cage, the Hollywood actor, who enters the tournament to prove he is the real deal and that his moves aren't fake. They are guided by the lightning and thunder god Raiden. They
While you're at it, why don't you call my
they board the ship and get ambushed by Scorpion and Sub-Zero, where Raiden interferes, electrocuting both Scorpion and Sub-Zero. And it's here where he proves to them that he is Raiden and drops some serious knowledge on what they will be facing in the tournament. Shang Tsung sits some of his guards onto the combat gang, and the combat gang easily defeats them all. Then the tournament begins. Liu Kang defeats Hank Austin's character, the warrior monk, and Shang Tsung kills him by stealing his soul when it's over. Sonya defeats and kills Kano in this adaptation. Johnny Cage fights and defeats Scorpion after a hard-fought battle, and after cutting Scorpion up, causing him to explode, gives him his signature friendship picture. Then Mortal Kombat, Liu Kang defeats Kitana. Then after that, Sub-Zero. Then Shang Tsung. Then since the Earthrealmers have defeated everyone, he enters Goro into the competition, and Goro proceeds to wreck the competition before finally facing Arlene, to which Arlene puts up a valiant effort and gets a couple of shots in, but is no match for the unbelievable power of Goro. He is killed, and his soul is taken by Shang Tsung. Johnny Cage comes over the Johnny Cage seeing what happened to Arlene, knows it's gonna happen knows it's gonna happen to them if they all fight him one at a time. So Johnny Cage comes over to plan to fight Goro one-on-one, to the anger of Sonya. Johnny Cage easily evades Goro's attacks and kills him by knocking him off the cliff. This was the battle I was talking about. Then Shang Tsung cheats and tries a loophole in the rules where a deal he made with Johnny Cage that no matter who wins, he has the right to challenge. Whoever he chooses, and Shang Tsung chooses Sonya because it's an easy win. Liu Kang and Johnny Cage follow Shang Tsung to Outworld, but they arrive in different places. They notice the tower, but before they go to the tower, Liu Kang finds Reptile hiding in a wall and throws him into a statue, and the statue, the lizard, throws the Reptile's lizard form into a statue, and it becomes and of course the statue turns into the human form of Reptile. You even hear the voice of Shao Kahn say Reptile, Reptile, and then Reptile. Then you have the one of the coolest fights in cinema between Liu Kang, where he defeats Reptile, with the combo followed by the flying kick, and last but not least finishing him off with the bicycle kick and stomping on Reptile to prevent him from escaping, killing him. Next is the final battle between Liu Kang and Shang Tsung. Liu Kang fights Liu Kang. At first the battle was evenly matched until Liu Kang punches Shang Tsung to the ground. Then Shang Tsung starts using more of his power, and summons several dead warriors to face Liu Kang. Liu Kang easily defeats them all. Shang Tsung appears on top of the tower. Liu Kang follows him up there, and Shang Tsung transforms into Liu Kang brother's Chan. Liu Kang then overcomes the guilt of his brother by saying Chan chose his own destiny. And that it wasn't his fault. And Shang Tsung then turns back and starts wailing on Liu Kang. Liu Kang quickly gains the advantage and proceeds to dominate Shang Tsung, causing him to lose some of his souls and power. And as such, Liu Kang orders Shang Tsung to surrender, but Shang Tsung refuses, and Liu Kang pummels him, and with the fireball knocks him onto the spikes, killing him. Killing him and setting free all of the souls he's taken, including his brother Chan, who they have one final family reunion before Chan goes on into the afterlife, and that is how it is with everyone celebrating and going back to Earthrealm, everyone going back to Earthrealm, going back to the Temple of the Order of Light, where Raiden is waiting for them. But the friendly reunion is cut short when Shao Kahn, the Emperor of Outworld, invades Earthrealm, and the film ends with each combatant getting into their fighting stance. Shao Kahn says, "You weak, pathetic fools, I've come for your souls." And Raiden says, "I don't think so." They all get into their fight scene. So like I said, awesome movie. Another thing I didn't like was due to the budget, this film was only made with about $29 million. Because of that small budget, there weren't a lot of there quote unquote weren't a lot of what didn't exist in this movie. Oh yeah, there weren't a lot of there weren't a lot of cool projectiles. They had them, but there weren't a lot of special maneuvers, especially when it came to the bad guys. They had very cool projectiles, but they rather fight hand to hand, which apparently the heroes in this version could do way better. So this will also be a problem. This problem will be even worse in the sequel, which had even less special maneuvers and projectiles. So this was Mortal Kombat 1995. You want to hear the rest of the the next one is Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Alright, now it's time for the final part of my Mortal Kombat movie franchise review and overview. Gonna talk about Mortal Kombat Annihilation, briefly about the Conquest television series, and give my thoughts on the upcoming Mortal Kombat film, my short thoughts on the Mortal Kombat film. So with that being said, let's get started right now. Let's get started. right now. Yeah, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, in my opinion, is one of the best and worst movies of all time. I thought the storyline, screenplay, cast of characters, actors, actresses, fight choreography, and soundtrack were phenomenal. But the special effects and the budget were the film's biggest problems. There were lots of continuity. There were lots of continuity goofs, and one scene where they reused footage over and over again. But to this day, I think this film still does get unfairly ragged on. Unfairly ragged on. I hate people who bash this movie because they just really go along with the crowd and just say it sucks without actually really giving legitimate reasons or not understanding while it sucks. And that's what we're going to be talking about. That's what I'm going to be talking about here. Um, um, yeah, yeah, yeah. I still like this movie even as an adult because unlike most adaptations, this is Amazing Spider-Man, X-Men First Class. I'm talking to you. Unlike most modern adaptations, which stay which stay completely stay completely away from source material. This film care this film cared so much about the fan base that they did everything in their power. They did everything in their power. They stuck as close as possible to the source material while deviating in several areas. Deviating in several areas, stuck as close as possible. The basic plot was basically an adaptation of Mortal Kombat. Was basically an adaptation of Mortal Kombat 3, but they also feature elements from the second game and quote unquote the fourth game, the fourth game, the quote unquote fourth game, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Yeah, the storyline was Shao Kahn fed up with multiple losses in Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat has his queen Sindel resurrected, and invades and opens a portal and invades Earth realm. Anyway, in this version, with help from his father, the Elder God Shinnok, the Elder God Shinnok. Apart from Shinnok's involvement, that is pretty much the storyline of Mortal Kombat 3. And when he invades, he begins to merge the realms together, which of course strips various humans of their souls, leaving only seven chosen warriors to oppose him. And the only way to reverse everything is to defeat and kill Shao Kahn. Which the combatants Liu Kang are eventually able to do to set everything right again, right again, right again, right again. Yeah. I thought the storyline and screenplay. Was better than the storyline of the previous film, and I thought this film right here was a better Mortal Kombat movie, a better video game movie, a better Mortal Kombat movie than the first one. But the first one, as a Hollywood blockbuster, is so much better. This movie. Now let's talk about some of the bad. This movie had terrible special effects. The projectiles and stuff are still pretty cool. They look the same. Like I said, the projectile looks the same in every movie I watch. The projectile's the same. It doesn't matter how much money you throw at it. It's gonna be the same. It's gonna be the same in every adaptation. Every adaptation. So if you're whining about projectiles, the energy attacks, the special maneuvers look, then you probably should stop watching live action adaptations because that's how they look. Now the creature effects, I love those creature effects, but those haven't aged well. Those look like a combination of the original PlayStation and Nintendo 64. Nintendo 64 is the same thing with the 95 Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You have to take off the nostalgic goggles and realize how outdated some of those effects, how outdated some of those special effects were, but loved those special effects. I loved how they took one of the coolest things about Mortal Kombat 3 was the new animality fatality where you get to transform into an animal and viciously maim your opponent. I like how they took that cool fatality and made it part of the storyline. Made it part of the storyline here where Nightwolf instructs Liu Kang on how to obtain his animality, which Liu Kang is finally able to awaken in his final battle with Shao Kahn. Shao Kahn. The cast from this film. No one returned except for Robin Shao, who portrayed Liu Kang, and Talisa Soto, who portrayed Kitana. The cast from this film I thought were just as bit as good as the first one, if not better. I thought Sandra Hess, who portrays Sonya Blade in this version, I thought she was better than Bridget Wilson from the original. Bridget Wilson was great for Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 Sonya, that era of Sonya, but the badass Mortal Kombat 3 Sonya, Sandra Hess looks more like the Mortal Kombat 3 incarnation. Gregory McKinney was a good Jax. He looks like the Mortal Kombat 2 version of Jax, but I like Lynn Red Williams, who's, in my opinion, the best Jax ever, even better than the video games. And Jax, he was considered the MVP of characters in the film. Everyone liked his character in the film. He was considered the MVP, and Jax was better here than he was in the video games. In this movie right here, Jax beat Motaro. Jax beat the boss character, but he fought with Cyrax, and beat Motaro. This is the best depiction of Jax I've ever seen, alongside his Defenders of the Realm cartoon version. They're even better. One of the many times they're even better than the video games when you get to the Jax character. Then we got James Raymar. Yes, sucks Christopher Lambert couldn't come back. But James Raymar was a great replacement. Christopher Lambert and Jeffrey Lee, who portrayed Raiden in the Mortal Kombat 95 and Conquest adaptations. They're good at portraying the sarcastic douchier Raiden, whereas Raymar is good at portraying the more serious pacific Raiden, and then you got Sub-Zero, then you got Keith Cook, Reptile from the first movie, returning as Sub-Zero here. Even though Scorpion and Sub-Zero were featured way less here, I thought they were done better justice here in this movie than they were in the first one. Scorpion, he's the only bad guy who won. He accomplished his mission. He kidnapped Kitana and took her all the way back to Shanks, to Shao Kahn, to quote unquote Shao Kahn, and disappear for the rest of the movie. Same with Sub-Zero. You can kind of see them saving them for the next film, which would have been Mortal Kombat 4. But I wish they would have had instead of waiting till Mortal Kombat 4. These are your two flagship characters. Wish they would have kept them here in this movie. But I see what they're trying to do, so I'm not gonna really whine much about this. And despite being the flagship characters, Scorpion and Sub-Zero, despite how big their storylines were in Mortal Kombat 3, their storylines were actually minimal compared to everyone else's, despite how big it was, in my opinion, being the best storylines of Mortal Kombat 3. Their storylines were actually minimal in that video game, so seeing them be minimal here is not too surprising if you understand the lore. So like, yeah, if you never followed Mortal Kombat before, you probably wouldn't like this movie. But if you understood the lore, understood everything from Mortal Kombat, and seeing all these things come to life in the Sub-Zero and Scorpion fight, one of the best fights and scenes in the movie, we see Scorpion throw two spears at Sub-Zero. Then Sub-Zero hits a backflip, and there's the signature ice clone. Then you see Cyrax who's fighting Jax doing his energy nets, Jax during his final battle with Taro, he does the ground smash maneuver, and Shao Kahn is constantly throwing green energy chi balls, similar to what he can do in the video game, except he does it with his hands in this version, which he can in the game too, but he usually does it with his face, the mask. And
What's going on here?
And yeah, this film had much better. This film had a much better costume. This film had a much better costume. This film had a much better costume. This film had a much better costume design than the first one. The characters looking like they're Mortal Kombat 3. They're Mortal Kombat 3 and 4 counterparts. Mortal Kombat 3 and 4 counterparts. Yeah. Every character in this film was great, with the exception of Shinnok. He was probably the worst character because for one decade, I had no idea that was Shinnok. They don't ever say his name in the film, but this film was controversial in trying to imply that Shao Kahn, Raiden, and Shinnok are related. In a way, they are technically brothers because they all had the same mission. They were advisors, protectors of their realms, but Shao Kahn and Shinnok decided to become conquerors of their realm, betraying their oath. So in a ways, they are brothers, but they're not biologically related. They're not blood brothers. They're not blood brothers. Blood brothers. So with that being said, but the characters who appear in this film are Liu Kang, Jax, Kitana, Sonya Blade, Raiden, Sindel, Jade, Melina, Baraka, Rain, Shiva, who both those characters were severely misutilized in this film. Ermac, Smoke, and Cyrax, Rotaro, Shao Kahn himself, and of course Shinnok. Shinnok and several raptors based upon reptiles race also return in this film. So you got a large cast of I hate how Rain and Shiva were just severely misutilized. These characters look great, and I couldn't wait to see them fight. And Rain, he gets killed easily. He gets killed easily by Khan in the beginning. If you were just gonna kill Rain off like that, why make him a popular character from the video game? Same with Shiva. You could have said that was someone else as a stand-in for those characters, and they got killed. And I would have believed it. I would have, quote-unquote, believed it. Then Rain's death would be the death of Baraka later, which is another problem I have with this film. I know this is Mortal Kombat, but just because it's Mortal Kombat, that does not mean you had to kill everybody off, especially if you can't afford, if you don't have the budget to kill off every character. You don't have the budget to do a fatality every time, because that's how it was in the video games. Despite all the violence, all the death and murder in the first four games, no one really died, despite all the blood, guts, and murder. To this day, people don't understand that. It wasn't until the fifth game where things started getting dark. And once again, the only reason I accept this movie from Mortal Kombat 1 through 4, if you know the backstory, the good guys, Liu Kang in the realm of Earth, triumph over Outworld, and later the Nether realm. It was Deadly Alliance where the bad guys started winning, and then in the next game, the heroes set everything right again. So it's an endless cycle. Going back to continuity groups, other things. One cool scene actually was when Sub-Zero came gliding in. You can see his wire. At first, I thought that was part of the act as a child because I'm like, Sub-Zero can't fly, but apparently that was a continuity goof. Another funny continuity goof. These are reasons why the film is bad. The budget issues and the continuity goof. There's nothing wrong with the story, characters, actors, and actresses. Johnny Cage, who everybody, they hate his actor. All the guy said was, Chris Conrad, he all he said was, this is not good. That's all he said, and everyone has to act like, oh, he was horrible. He was bad. He was horrible. He was a good replacement for Lyndon Ashby, but yes, I would have liked to have had Lyndon Ashby back, but he was a good replacement. Then you had everyone else. Then you had quote unquote everyone else in the film.
You will stand by and watch the ruination of Earth.
You are correct.
Oh yeah. Then you had Scorpion before his cue. If you go back and watch the movie, watch the movie, you can see Scorpion appear behind Kitana, you can see Scorpion right behind Kitana, right before he teleports to her direction and grabs her. You can see Scorpion, the actor for Scorpion in costume, waiting for his cue in the wrong spot. So that was another funny continuity goof that I never noticed as a kid, but finally noticed as an adult after someone in the comment pointed it out. In the comment section of the Scorpion versus Sub-Zero fight pointed it out. But that was another continuity goof. And of course the Ryu shot. Baraka's death being a repeat of Rain's death from earlier. So yeah, these are the issues with the film. The continuity goofs, the reusing of footage, and the terrible special effects when it came to the dragon and creature effects. These were the issues with the film. There's nothing wrong with the storyline and stuff. The storyline and script is better than most modern films. And at least this film while changing a bunch of things, stuck true to the source material, something modern films don't do. X-Men, First Class, Amazing Spider-Man, I am talking to you. So, yeah, this was Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Now to give my thoughts on the upcoming Mortal Kombat movie. Already, the upcoming Mortal Kombat movie looks terrible. The television spy I recently saw on TV looked much better. But the film already looks terrible. I predicted it would suck because the first two movies were near perfect. All you have to do is go closer to the source material, bigger budget, more projectiles. That's it. The storyline here was which color. Here, they go completely out of the loop. This film does not even look like a Mortal Kombat film. This film looks like a Suicide Squad movie. You got Kano on the side of good. I know they did that in the comic book, and he was technically briefly on the side of good at the end of the first game and the second game, and the quote-unquote second game. But Kano the bad guy. And Sonya only even entered the tournament to apprehend Kano. Then you got Jax, just like the new version, instead of the old timeline where he had the arms, where he had the cybernetic arms fused with his regular arms. Here he gets his human arms ripped off, and has to replace them with cybernetic arms. You already see this part in the trailers with Sub-Zero freezing his arms, quote unquote freezing with Sub-Zero quote unquote freezing his quote unquote arms. So yeah, that was one quote unquote disappointment. Right there. That was one disappointment. That's already, they're taking elements from the crappy new timeline. Hate the new timeline. I like the old ones, Mortal Kombat's 1 through 8. They're taking cues from this. Cabal, he pissed me off the most. I didn't see this, but I saw an article saying Cabal is one of the combatants, quote unquote, getting a fatality. There's a new original character named Cole who's supposed to replace Johnny Cage. Why would you want to replace Johnny Cage when Johnny Cage is one of the flagship characters in the comedy relief and the normal character out of one of the normal characters out of the group besides Stryker. Curtis Stryker, but I heard Cabal. I heard something about Liu Kang giving Cabal a fatality. Cabal, who's on the side of good in the beginning, giving him a fatality. So like I was saying, already, this movie looks terrible. The whole thing looks like one bad cosplay. The Mortal Kombat 95 and Annihilation film and Conquest had more realistic and believable outfits than the outfits these characters have. This looked like one gigantic cosplay and fan film. The other movies looked more realistic than this one does. Still gonna give it the benefit of the doubt because I've been wrong before. I've went into films numerous times thinking they would suck, and it turns out they were the best film, and they come out thinking they were the best films ever. And it's Mortal Kombat. I'm a huge Mortal Kombat. We've waited years for this new Mortal Kombat quote unquote adaptation. Well, yeah. So cast looks okay. Not as good as the original movies cast, but a great cast nonetheless. A great cast, nonetheless. A great cast and a great cast of characters appear in the film. So that's another positive. So yeah, this has been my Mortal Kombat franchise review overview and my thoughts on the upcoming movie. You don't want to hear the rest of the music? Turn the video off right now.